welcome to
Mini Econ Talk.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Rodrigo.
So before we get started, Rodrigo, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and your interest in some econ-related issues?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Rodrigo, and there's something real interesting in finances and economics. When you actually start to understand how it works, you actually start to understand how people work. Uh, and that is, really interesting when you try to, when you try to do your projects. Just in life is so interesting, and knowing some basics, it's always something useful. What about you, Angela?
Yeah, so I have a deep interest in economics and finance as well. My interest was built upon by learning about economics at school, and also I think my thoughts of starting this podcast was because of the limited accessible resources to econ related global issues. So I thought in this podcast we can focus about some global issues related to economics.
So, as well, we just want to make clear from the start that we are just students who are interested in these topics and are here to discuss some of our views, involve some statistics and news.
We are open to any suggestions and feedbacks and would love to hear from our fellow listeners in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can check out our new episodes.
And well, what are we going to speak about today? We were speaking about what we wanted to touch upon today, and we found out that there are some misunderstandings in what we call financial freedom. So, first of all, what does freedom mean itself? You know, um,
Yes, so I think freedom, by definition from the Forbes, is that you are in control of your finances and your life choices. Now, Rodrigo, do you want to expand on that, on what financial freedom means?
so I believe that your own definition matters well. Like what you think about matters when you want to achieve financial freedom. So, for instance, asking yourself, let's say, why do you want to achieve it? Then, what does it mean to you? Those questions are real important when you want to make your own meaning of, well, in this case, freedom. That is why there is no global definition of financial freedom. It's also something that you want to achieve.
Yeah, I think definitely everyone has different standards of financial freedom. And today we are going to talk about some of our views, and hopefully it will help you to understand more thoroughly about financial freedom. So, firstly, our first main question for our episode today is that is financial freedom achievable? So, Rodrigo, do you want to expand on this?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things that, we need to take into account when we answer this question because, as we said, what does financial freedom mean for you? So, in the case, financial freedom means don't having the necessity to work, then I don't think it's possible for everybody. However, it's possible. It's possible for a few people, and any anyone can be that person who gets to have that financial freedom. But it won't be easy. So you have to, get involved in, investing, trying to save some money, trying to make your life, at the start you need to change your lifestyle a bit, but nonetheless, I think that it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think financial freedom, depending on how you define it, is achievable to some degree. For example, if you want to, I guess, take off the burden of a mortgage, I think it is definitely something that we can try to achieve, depending on how big your mortgage is and depending on your salary. And there are so many aspects to financial freedom and so many uncontrolled variables that can change that will affect how we are going to achieve financial freedom and whether it is achievable.
Another aspect I think when you're trying to achieve financial freedom is what we were speaking at the start of the conversation, and we need to, in order we can achieve financial freedom, we need to have some financial knowledge, right? And there's quite a
Yeah,
problem there, right? Because, well, when we were investigating about the topic, we found out some interesting facts. We found that while actual financial knowledge measured through, factual questions about economics declined from 2009 to 2015, however, perceptions of financial knowledge actually increased. And this goes from the National Financial Capabilities Study in the US, and that is quite interesting. How do you think that could impact, um, you trying to achieve financial freedom? How do you think this statistics could impact a person?
I think because of the advances in technology, people have a well perception that they know more about, for example, the stock market, how investment works, how investment portfolio works. While they are actually not reading quite a lot of credible resources, but only some news articles that tells them the stock market is easy. The investment portfolio is just something everyone can do. So I think it is because of some of the media impacts that resulted I guess, a decline in actual financial knowledge and an increase in potential financial knowledge. So I that's my reasoning behind it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays we know about a lot of topics, but just the surface of those topics. Don't you think so? It's
Yeah.
it's pretty strange because, for instance, when you see the news, you get to see some information from those events. However, you don't, after looking at the news, you don't really investigate about those events. And that makes you just learn about the surface. And that is not something good, especially when we're speaking about having actual knowledge about your economic life, your financial life.
Yeah, definitely. Have you heard of the term of a bubble
Like,
in the social media?
yes,
Yeah, because of the algorithm behind all these web pages, the social media, we are actually a bit confined in a bubble of knowledge that we want to hear and of the opinions we hold usually. So, because of this bubble, I think this is why people's perception of knowledge actually increased because they think they mastered all the knowledge they can have. Well, it is because of the algorithm behind it only shows you the knowledge that you want to see. So
yes,
I think this is definitely another aspect to it.
yes, that's exactly what happens. And, well, I mean, I think we're kind of going to another topic, but that's real interesting as well. Um, and that happens with every topic, including financial freedom. However, when we go to a web page, enter a web page and look for some ideas of how we can achieve financial freedom, um, there aren't many, you know, we see a web page speaking about how it's incredible to have financial freedom, how you can do whatever you want, steps towards achieving financial freedom, but you don't see actual recommendations. And even in those web pages where you see steps towards achieving financial freedom, they are actually speaking about steps of financial freedom, not of your journey towards achieving it. So, what do you think this is like? We we don't really have so many recommendations, and when they actually give us recommendations, we they just give recommendations about saving money, which we know it's not the best idea if you want to achieve financial freedom.
Yeah, definitely, because a little bit of economics background here. So saving money is actually a leakage to the circular flow of diagram, and because of inflation, that the actual worth of money in saving accounts is actually depreciating every year. So the best way is not through saving money, but to invest in the savings you have. So yeah, so this is a little bit of a background, but I think the articles we researched definitely shows a bubble, like we said before, because it only tells us that financial freedom is achievable for everyone. The titles of these news articles include words like financial freedom for everyone. It's achievable. It's great. There's really catchy words, but actually doesn't offer much insight into what financial freedom means. And I think you mentioned a great point there, Rodrigo, is that they don't offer us a detailed step. But I also think that a detailed step is quite difficult to offer because everyone has different standards of financial freedom, and we are definitely going to mention these standards later in the episode. So, what do you think about these articles that offers us only a bubbled view of financial freedom?
So, I mean, there are a lot of ways of interpreting what they do in these articles. I generally think that people who write those articles actually and generally believe that financial freedom is achievable for everyone. However, I think that's not a great idea because I mean I don't think it's realistic. Let's speak about, let's say, everyone in this case. The average person like won't be able to achieve what for them is financial freedom just by doing what these articles say they should do, which is saving. They will probably just save for their retirement, but the actual what for the for the majority of people is financial freedom, they won't actually achieve it just by doing those type of things. So that is real interesting. I don't I don't want to think that this articles do it because they want people to save in order, you know, then banks can invest in other things and not those people, those people as well. I don't want to think it's because of that. I don't want to think that someone is you're trying to say, okay, you should save because I have a bank and then I want to invest your money. I do think it's because they genuinely think that financial freedom is achievable for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think they do have a idea that financial freedom, they genuinely think that financial freedom is achievable for everyone, but they seem to not have sufficient background to know that the best way to achieve financial freedom or to manage your finance is through, for example, low risk investments or um, different products the banks offer, rather than just purely keeping money in your own hands. So I think this we are making a fairly solid point here.
Yes, I mean, also, I think that there's a point right there. I do believe that you shouldn't use that much, or you shouldn't use as your main source of investment what the banks offer. You know, I'm sorry, those low risks, low risk investments. I think that they are a good way to start, but I don't really believe that that's the way to achieve for you would be financial freedom, right? You need to, I mean, like everything in life, right? You need to take some risks, I guess. So actually investigating about how to invest in stock market, actually trying to make your own, little business. Um, there are a lot of ways of making money apart from your normal, well, what someone would call a normal job, and making money in a passive way that, you know, anyone can actually have that option.
Yeah, definitely. So, why do you think so many people actually believe in the fact that saving can generate financial freedom? Is it because the lack of proficient education, or it is just their beliefs? We are not targeting anyone in any sense. We are just opening discussing these issues in a sense.
That's really interesting. I believe that mm, if you just think about it, I'm sorry, if you just think about it, I mean, what's the problem with saving, When people think about saving, I mean, when I think about saving, the first idea that comes to my mind is putting some money in the bank and then trying to use it in another thing. And what I think most people think when they are told about saving their money, I guess they think about, putting their money in the bank, saving the money, and then they'll be able to use the money they've saved, and that will somehow, give them the financial freedom they want. However, though it could be a, an idea to bear in mind, that's not really the way of achieving financial freedom. Saving, and as you said, it will, depreciate your money, and you are not really using that money while you are saving it. Like, you are not doing anything with it. That is why it's not a way to achieve financial freedom.
Yeah, definitely. But I guess because of the different types of financial freedom, maybe for some people, some sort of saving helps them because, for example, if they have debts, savings can definitely help them. So I think there is some truth within these articles, but we have to have a really clear mind in that we believe we need to assess these articles based on our own situations.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah,
as you said, there are different, descriptions of what for someone financial freedom means. So, yes, I guess that saving, I mean, always having some money saved is something that is good, you know, even though it might be depreciating, and even though you might be losing a little part of that money, you need to, that's kind of the investment of having some money saved for the future. However, saving everything that you can, I think that's not the best idea.
Yeah, I think so too. Now we are going to move on to some of the idea of education behind financial freedom. So, Rodrigo, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, so when we, for instance, I mean, if anyone here is hearing like this opinions, I would like them to think about if they received a correct financial education during during their school years, if they actually received financial education. My case, I didn't receive like actual financial education. Nowadays, schools, I believe that they are starting to enter those type of topics. However, they are not doing it how, you or me would think they want, like we want to learn about those topics. They, started to introduce us to the topics of how money works, the history of money, let's say, all of, different things that we actually don't quite need in this world. We actually need to know a bit more of how, well, we actually need to know about how money works, but we also need to know about what can we do with it, right? That is something that they don't teach in school. And just to just to say some facts about, the education system, for some reason, right, schools are the industry. Do you know that industries, based on the technology nowadays, have some advancements, or are, for instance, the construction industry um,
Mm-hmm.
isn't quite advanced because you need to destroy the buildings to then, you know, build another one. So the construction building, I think it's 20 years of, you know, not advancements. And that means
Mm-hmm.
that in around 20 years, they will be in the point we are right now. Like the buildings will be in the
Yeah.
point we are right now. So with education, it happens the same, but the actual non-advancement time, let's say it that way, is around 50 years. Like in around 50 years, like our kids or our grandkids will be learning what we should be learning about the world right now. And that
Yeah,
is like
definitely.
surprising. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think it is quite surprising as well because I do think quite not many schools teach about financial freedom. Well, my school did teach about financial freedom, but it was only one session, and I think many of the students at my school was very bored during that session because they didn't quite get the point of learning about these at our age, and because of the presentation, the nature of the presentation, it is not very interesting, so many students got very bored. And I think this is also another reason why we are talking to you in a conversational style today, because we want you to have more financial awareness about the topic of financial freedom, and also any other finance economics related topics.
Yeah, I mean, all of what we've spoken today are actual things that happen and are actual things that we believe. So we really think that people should take into account, let's see, these recommendations and bear in mind the opinions we've given right now. And well, I mean, anything that you want to say in this, last moment?
Yeah, so I guess now we can move on to the 8 levels of financial freedom stated by the Forbes. So I'll mention the first four, and Rodrigo, do you want to mention about the last four? So the first four, level one, not living paycheck to paycheck. Level two, enough money to quit your job for a bit. Level three, enough to be financially happy and still save. Level 4, freedom of time.
Now, level 5, enough for your basic retirement. Level 6, enough to actually retire well. Level 7, enough for dream retirement. Level 8, more money than you could ever spend. So, those levels are, I mean, I think that they are somehow true. I don't know if you think the same. However, they are focusing financial freedom towards retirement. Now, I don't think that's quite the best idea. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I think the idea of financial freedom. Yeah, I think the idea of financial freedom seems to be constantly connected with retirement. I don't think it is a bad idea, but depending on how you define retirement, because I think retirement is a stage where we reach financial freedom, or at least we are happy with our current lifestyle. Because some people might retire earlier because they are financially capable to do so, while others may retire at the um, suggested or normal age where they're they reached this age to actually retire. So I think the idea of financial freedom connected with retirement um, is actually acceptable for me. But what about you?
Yes, I mean, I think that trying to relate it with retirement could be a more or less good idea for, the, common person, let's say it that way, that just, looks for a good and happy retirement. However, I think that for actually achieving financial freedom in your, I don't know, while you are young, let's say that way, I think that not all of those 8 levels are actually true, right? So, for instance, I believe that until the fourth level, we're okay. So that would be what you said, not living paycheck to paycheck. That's, I mean, the basics of financial freedom, trying to be independent of your job, then enough money to quit your job. I would kind of rephrase that to enough, not money, like not savings to quit your job for a bit, but enough, let's say, money fluctuation to quit your job for a bit, right? That's, I think, a more accurate way of saying that. Then enough to be financially happy and still safe. That safe part is not quite necessary, I would say, and still, save a bit and still invest a bit. I think that would be a bit more accurate. And freedom of time, I would actually put that in the last, that would be my actual goal for me. My like for my description of, you know, the meaning of what I put to financial freedom, that would be, like the ultimate goal. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think for me it is definitely the same. I think freedom of choice as well as freedom of time is definitely where I would put it last. The level 8 currently we have at the moment, more money than you could ever spend. I'll put a question mark around that for the idea of financial freedom because having more money than you could ever spend, it's actually not, for me, it's actually not about financial freedom. It is I guess, a unlimited desire we have rather than the idea of financial freedom. So, do you think the levels of financial freedom are connected with different social, economical classes in our society?
Yes, that's actually something that happens in other financial aspects, you know. When you think about how if we separate the society into classes, you'll see that the lower classes don't really focus on on you know doing something with the money, but rather they don't think that there's a possibility other than having some luck to get out of those situation. And then the medium class, they think that just working, having a good job and stable job would like they can achieve what they want. While the high class is more inclined into making companies or investing, and that is something important as well. However, I mean, for in this case, I'm speaking about, let's say, the adults, because being born into a high class could be somehow problematic, depending on how your parents decide to raise you. So for the moment, I'm just speaking about the adults.
Yeah, I think different social economical classes is definitely related with different levels. As you said, I think the lower classes are definitely more concerned with the idea of financially free in that they can move out of poverty and having the ability to choose their job and to get their kids out of this situation. And I think for the middle classes, um, it is definitely something quite similar where they want to um, they want to have more freedom of time and freedom of choices. And I think the bit I quite disagree with you is that for higher classes, I think for higher classes, they've already achieved their financial freedom in that they don't have to worry about um, money in their lives in these cases. So I think for the higher classes, financial freedom is definitely not something they would consider. I think it is that the contribution to society that the higher class would focus more on. I'm not sure if you agree with me on that.
Um, yes, I mean, I do think it's, to some extent true. However, I was, trying to like say how I wasn't actually thinking about someone who was born into a high class, but rather someone that went from a low or middle class to a high class, to achieve that financial freedom. Well, that's really, great financial freedom. How their mindset was. So I think that for someone who went, who passed from a, middle class, made a transition to a higher class, I think the mindset of that person is different. I think it's, of investing, making companies, trying to make something for society. I don't know, what do you think about like those type of mindsets?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. For someone who've shifted, I guess, society, social classes, I think this is definitely what they will consider here. So I think this is all for today.
Yes.
Rodrigo, do you have anything to add?
Well, I do have a few things to say. I mean, first of all, thank you for hearing us. If you've come to this part, if you've ended the podcast, let's say, um, thank you for hearing us. I hope you've learned something about financial freedom, or you've questioned some few things about financial freedom with us, and I'll see you in the next time.
Yeah, great. We will see you next time. And once more, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and check out our new videos. We will see you next time.